I, 21F, don't know how to continue being in a relationship with my 21M partner. We've been together for a year and a half, and I am struggling. My partner and I hold differing viewpoints and beliefs on numerous subjects, and both of us can be quite confrontational, which often leads to arguments. Each disagreement escalates into a significant conflict. Throughout our relationship, we have only experienced one disagreement that did not turn into a heated argument, leaving us both feeling hurt. I had a distressing childhood and early adulthood, leading to severe anger issues. However, I recognized how my behavior affected those around me and understood that I needed to change. Consequently, I began working on my self-control and emotional regulation. I am proud to say I have made considerable progress. I am no longer violent when I feel angry, and I strive not to raise my voice or be unkind simply because I am upset. I make an effort to listen to both sides of an argument instead of jumping to conclusions. I acknowledge that I am far from perfect. I still get angry frequently and have much work ahead of me. Conversely, my partner struggles with more severe anger issues than I did before making changes. He yells, hits, throws things, and exhibits aggressive behavior. I tend to be forgiving because I have been in that position before, and I know he is attempting to address his anger for both our sakes. With every argument, he becomes increasingly aggressive, controlling, and hurtful. He went from punching my dashboard so hard that he broke it, to, during the next conflict, slamming on the brakes with such force that I was thrown against the front windshield and dashboard, to verbally insulting me by calling me names and other hurtful remarks. We reached an agreement that allows either of us to leave and take some time apart whenever necessary, as long as we return to discuss the matter once we are calmer. He has frequently taken advantage of this arrangement and walked away during arguments, and I am relieved that he feels safe enough to do so. However, I, on the other hand, have not been consistently allowed to leave when he gets upset. It feels rude and disrespectful for me to leave when he does not want me to, as he often physically blocks my way or holds onto me to prevent my exit. He will even drag me back and try to make me sit down, and will slap food out of my hands in the process. He has taken my keys so I cannot drive away, and there have been times he has forced me out of my own room without my keys so he can have space because he is angry with me. During our most recent argument, he exploded because he feels I do not support him. He believes I am never on his side and that I continually side with my mother instead of him. This disagreement arose from my reluctance to allow him to acquire another vehicle on top of the two we already own, while living at my mother's house in a homeowners association. Especially considering he has other responsibilities that require his financial attention, such as his mounting debts, fixing his truck, moving out, and addressing the bills I've taken on for him while he has moved from one job to the next producing minimal income. I want to emphasize that he has been living with my family and me for most of our relationship without paying rent, until the last month when my mother started charging him $300 a month because he was not fulfilling his one obligation to move in, which was simply to wipe down the counters. He had previously been homeless, so it made sense for him to stay with us, despite how early it was in our relationship. Additionally, I never outright told him that he cannot have another car at all. I merely suggested that now is not the right time. I proposed that we make a plan to eventually get him the car he wants without worsening our situation. At the beginning of our relationship, he expressed a strong desire for a truck, so I sold my car and took out a loan to purchase one for him, with the guarantee that he would help me cover the almost $500 monthly payment. I set aside all of my own goals, such as plans to move out, acquire desired items, and travel to get him something he truly wanted because, as foolish as it sounds, I loved him and wanted to make him happy. When he only assisted with 2 payments and left me to cover the rising insurance costs, which increased since I was now responsible for both vehicles, particularly after he was involved in accidents and received a ticket, I did not complain. I was determined to do whatever I could to help him. With each job he took on and subsequently quit or was terminated from, I took on more of his responsibilities, including helping pay for his phone repairs on 2 occasions, covering smaller debts that arose, purchasing most of the groceries, paying for fast food that he preferred over cooking, funding subscriptions, and contributing half the cost of a PlayStation 5 for him, among countless other things I have done, to offer him support all, without receiving any acknowledgement or expression of gratitude from him. Therefore, when he shouted at me last night, claiming I never support him and that I always instigate arguments over trivial matters, saying that I need to figure out how to prevent him from arguing with me, feeling annoyed, disrespected, trapped, and suffocated because of me, I sat in silence during the entire drive home, absorbing everything he had to say. Not that I could have said anything. He often tells me, even in moments like this where I say nothing, that everything I express is nonsensical and that my feelings are invalid. Prior to his outburst, I explained to him that I had 3 main reasons for not wanting him to acquire another vehicle at this time. 1, the insurance would increase. 2, we live in a homeowners association that limits the number of vehicles allowed, especially given the limited space in the driveway, and my mother would object to him occupying her driveway and garage with his belongings. And 3, I do not want to assume another vehicle while we are not yet moved out or at least in a better financial and employment position, especially since he is currently unemployed and struggling. He continuously expresses frustration, claiming that my mother and I have not organized the garage during his stay, making it acceptable for him to monopolize the space. He insists he can fit the new car inside while removing his trailer, dismissing previous plans we had for the garage before he moved in. He insists that, unless I take action within a day, I am lying and making excuses, despite both my mother and I working full-time jobs, dealing with medical issues that hinder our ability to act quickly, and the garage already being filled with his belongings. Once we returned home, he spent some time in the living room while I played Minecraft in bed to help myself calm down and keep occupied. He returned a couple of hours later and went to sleep. Our door was not completely closed, so the cat got in, and I needed to remove her because she was damaging my trash can, curtains, sheets, and a large stuffed animal he had won for me at a fair. I could not leave her unattended. When I got up to remove her, he woke up and became upset that I did not just ignore her behavior. I asked him to be quiet and let me handle the situation because she was ruining my possessions. Although I succeeded in getting her out, the door did not latch properly, and she managed to return shortly after, prompting me to act quickly again. I ensured the door was shut to prevent her from getting in again, but he became furious when he heard her attempting to open it for a few minutes, to the point where he loudly declared that I made him sick. I am uncertain whether I can remain with someone who views me in that manner and exhibits such blatant disregard for my feelings and contributions. I wish to stay and build a future with him, but I am unsure how to proceed after hearing such hurtful words. They echo endlessly in my mind, and the malice and venom in his tone made me feel like the worst person he has ever encountered. I cannot move past that, especially when the only thing he expressed regret over was his yelling. How can I be with someone who believes it is acceptable to say such things to me and then falls asleep beside me without concern? He even suggested that if I had anything to say, I should text him, assuring me he would read it in the morning. However, he warned that if he detected even a hint of attitude, rudeness, or malice, he would lash out at me again. What would you all do in my situation? I have no friends or anyone to confide in regarding this. I am at a loss for how to communicate just how deeply this affects me. I should also mention that he grew up in an abusive environment similar to mine, albeit under different circumstances, so he carries his own trauma. Additionally, I struggle with chronic illness and rely on multiple medications. As a direct result of my trauma, I deal with various health issues, including pseudo-seizures, and I am extremely weak due to losing my ability to walk for the 3rd time at the beginning of last year. All of these challenges are exacerbated by stress. Story 2. Aita, holding boundaries or being disrespectful. Apologies for the length, and if the format is poor, I am currently using my phone. I am a 22-year-old female who has known this guy, Bob, a 25-year-old male, for approximately a year. I am aware that he has feelings for me, as he has expressed this to me several times. However, I have made it clear that I am not interested. I appreciate him as a person and would like to maintain a friendship if possible, but I do not want to lead him on. He has confided in me about some very personal matters, and I can tell that he genuinely needs a safe space and a friend. I sincerely want to be that for him, but it seems he struggles to separate his feelings for me from his actions and words. For example, he often compliments me, makes comments, and stares at me longer than necessary. I understand that compliments are simply that, compliments, but I also perceive them as indicative of his underlying intentions. He has mentioned waiting for me, which I have pointed out is inappropriate and indicates he is holding himself back. After he shared his feelings, I gave him a supportive hug in an attempt to help him feel present and cared for. However, in the following week, he made several comments that I found uncomfortable. He would often say he didn't care that I felt this way, insisting that I needed to know. Although I am happy with myself, and I am learning to appreciate my own worth without seeking validation from others, I do not want compliments from him or anyone else. I previously communicated to him that I am not much of a texter and do not wish to have ongoing text conversations with people. Yet, he sent me a message for the 4th consecutive day, stating that he had something to share with me. I naturally responded because I care about him and wanted to ensure his well-being, but he replied, "Nothing, I just wanted to say hi." This upset me greatly. It felt disingenuous. I became a bit frustrated in my response, realized I was projecting my feelings, and then asked him not to message me under false pretenses again. His response was, "But I am your friend, why can't I just say hello?" I felt exasperated because I clearly explained that I didn't appreciate the deception. I was particularly tired that day, which likely contributed to my irritation. I sensed that he was not fully listening and was only hearing what he wanted to hear. It felt as if I existed solely as a one-dimensional character in his eyes. He seemed unable to see me as anything else. I eventually addressed a few other things, mentioning comments he had made over the past few days that made me uncomfortable, even after I had informed him of my feelings. He accused me of being unkind and said it saddened him because I am the best part of his entire week. That statement felt heavy with pressure. I explained that my directness about my feelings should not be misconstrued as being mean, simply because it does not align with what he had envisioned. He stopped replying, and I left the conversation at that. The following week, I encountered him at a community group we both attend. I decided to leave early because I wanted to catch up with some other friends I had not seen in a while, and I preferred not to engage with him in a private conversation. I did not ignore him, but simply did not initiate any interaction. 2 days later, he invited me to lunch, which I declined because I was busy. Midweek, he messaged me requesting a mutual friend's phone number. I replied that the friend was currently out of town and explained that I do not give out others' numbers, suggesting he reach out to him directly instead. I spoke to this mutual friend shortly after, and he expressed gratitude for not sharing his contact information and for respecting his privacy. Bob accused me of being inconsiderate and claimed that the mutual friend said I could give him the number. I was not present during that conversation. I told him that name-calling was unnecessary, and he responded that I was being rude. I stated that I would not tolerate such behavior, but I could pass along Bob's number if he wanted me to, and he agreed. I chose not to engage further in the conversation. Since then, he has reached out, but he did not apologize for his name-calling nor acknowledged it. Instead, he randomly asked me a question. When I did not respond, he followed up a few hours later with a message expressing his feelings for me and insisted that I should not push him away. It felt as if he was suggesting that I was distancing myself due to his feelings, rather than his own actions or statements. The next day, I replied, emphasizing that he should focus more on his own behavior and intentions rather than making assumptions about how I feel. I also mentioned that my boundaries regarding the way people treat me have evolved, and I am striving to hold myself to a higher standard of conduct. I want to be surrounded by people who reflect those values. I used many I statements to reinforce that this is about my limits, not about him. His response was that I should really internalize what I said, and he claimed he does not treat me poorly and is always kind to me. He drew a comparison to Klaus from The Vampire Diaries, noting that while he can come across as rude sometimes, he has moments of great kindness. He argued that consistency in behavior is what matters most. I do not see myself in that light. I recognize I can be inconsiderate at times and may not always think about how my words and actions affect others. However, I have never acted with malice toward Bob in any regard. I have been attempting to uphold better boundaries for myself. I have informed Bob on multiple occasions that I am willing to be deemed the bad guy if that means adhering to my feelings and boundaries, rather than accommodating someone else's. I have viewed my interactions with Bob as opportunities to practice prioritizing myself, which I discussed with my parents when my father wanted to intervene. Perhaps that is wrong of me. However, I'm attempting to perceive everyone as a teacher, and if Bob is conveying anything, it is that the only person I need to be consistent for is myself. Thank you for reading all of this. So, am I the antagonist here? To summarize, a guy I know seems to have been pushy and disrespectful, and I need to determine whether I am being disrespectful or simply maintaining boundaries for myself.